Okay, we are now on to our next episode in Not a Victim, a Survivor, Life Beyond Domestic Violence and Rape. It's the first book in my series, Life Beyond Silence. It's my book, and it's available on Amazon in ebook form and also in paperback. Um, I just finished with episode 16. So this will be episode 17. And I'm hoping with the podcast that I can answer any questions or comments about the book if you have any. And I will do my very best to answer them. And that I can elaborate on parts of the book that maybe I didn't when I wrote it. Um, I'm also hoping that I can finalize my other two books in my series and eventually get them up on Amazon as well. And I'm just hoping with the podcast that I could maybe help somebody that's going through the same torment that I went through. And if I can help just one person, it'll be worth it. So let's get started. So, in the last episode, I was talking about how in less than 3 months, Phil had upended my world. First, there was the indecent exposure, then there was the um, I guess you would say it was an incident with a neighbor um, that got him a um, like a sexual harassment or misconduct thing against him. Um, I don't know. At the time that it happened, I honestly did not know what to think about it. You know, she'd filed charges against him. He had the charges hanging over him still from the indecent exposure. It was like my whole world was shattered. So let me continue. I just thought to myself, I'm not meant to be happy. Maybe things just aren't what they seem. Maybe I'm meant to live my entire life struggling, fighting, living in pain. Maybe things aren't fair anywhere. I knew things had gone wrong, but not this wrong. Surely I hadn't done anything in my life or my marriages to cause this. I wasn't perfect, but this was not like a fling. This involved the police, scandals, secrets that are unimaginable. And although I'd been through a lot in my life, this at this point was the worst. And I can remember when I wrote that, it was like I just couldn't imagine my life getting any worse. I felt like I'd been through so much domestic violence, alcoholism, drug addiction. I'd handled so many different things. Living in a foreign country, getting divorces, having 4 young children, and now my fourth marriage was just collapsing around me. I was, I thought it was like I was just living in a pit of hell. Like I just couldn't seem to dig myself out, climb myself out. I don't know how you'd put it, but I thought I was just at the end of my rope. What was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to end up in a mental ward? Or what? What could I have done that caused this much to happen to me? You got to remember this was 1992. I hadn't even turned 32 yet. I had a son that was just 2 years old. I had a son that was 2 and 3 girls, and I was 32. Not even. Because I turned 32 on Christmas Day. And this was like literally at that point. It was at, in my eyes, like, what am I supposed to do? I had always been a reasonably good mother and wife. I was a good-hearted person, just trying to stay above water. All I wanted to be was a good wife, raise my kids, and work. Now, I'll admit I wasn't, looking back especially, I'll admit I wasn't the best mom. I wasn't. I went from one bad marriage to the next, and I went from one drama to the next. But I did try. I just, in looking back at it now, I think I was very unstable. I think I could have easily ended up in a mental ward, because I think I was just tormented by, it seemed like, everybody. My first husband was tormenting me with my daughter. My second husband, well, no, he wasn't tormenting me, but he had hurt me severely during our marriage. My third husband, he wasn't tormenting me. He had moved on and I had moved on. But I was struggling to stay above water, and I had been through so much in my life. And here I was with my fourth husband trying to make it work. And then all of this had just hit me at once. Maybe we had a humdrum life, but just because we're struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, that didn't matter. At least we weren't out on the street. To me, the things that counted were that we had each other and we had the kids. We had all that we really needed. Most of all, we had our dreams. And now my life was just crashing down on every side. God help my spirit. It was dying. Papa, where are you? And if you listen to my podcast, you realize that my grandfather was like he was like a spirit that I felt like was watching over me. And I was begging for help from anywhere, from God and from my grandfather. Sometimes late at night, I wanted desperately to take a skillet to Phil's head while he slept. Sometimes I wanted to die, to stop the hurt, to stop the pain. I began to feel as though I was starting to lose my grip on reality. Time had just stopped. I began to lose track of days, hours. My soul was literally screaming. We talked about it, and I told Phil that I couldn't stand for him to touch me. Not now, but maybe it would be okay in the future. But right now, all I was a shell of a woman, and the deep pain that I felt. Sometimes I just started laughing. Phil was truly worried that I was having a nervous breakdown. So was I, to be honest. I did cry a lot, especially at first. But then later, I would catch myself laughing. Laugh at how ironic it was that I had known her. Laugh at myself for thinking that I knew where Phil was every minute of the day. Laugh at myself for being 32 years old and feeling 6 years old one minute and 60 the next. There wasn't anything left inside of me. So basically, laughing, it was all I had. That's all I could do. Is just think, I have no answers for this. I remember trying to make sense for how I felt. I remember saying, leave me alone and get the hell out of my house. I remember thinking, please don't leave. I love you. This was really going to be hard. What if everyone finds out? I could just see my ex-husband, Matt, running as fast as he could to the lawyers to try to tear my daughter from me. Phil finally went to court, and he was handed 3 choices. He didn't even see the judge. It was just his lawyer and the district attorney. Choice 1 was to have a jury trial, which his attorney might not say or said might not be the best thing, since it would mean that more people would find out, and it would be Phil's word against hers. Choice 2 was to have Phil take a lie detector test, where his attorney quickly said if anything went wrong, it would look like he's lying, and then Phil would definitely be found guilty. Period. End of story. To make matters really unfair, she wouldn't even have to take a lie detector test, because she didn't have anything to prove. She wasn't lying, since the DA considered her to be the victim. Or she didn't have to prove that she was lying, since the DA considered her to be the victim. Choice 3 was he could plead guilty to trespassing and get 10 days in jail, which could be done on weekends so not to interfere with his employment. No fine, and that would be the end of it. The attorney said this would be better for everyone involved, and it then would be all over with. The only thing that concerned our lawyer was that he thought for some reason Phil was being railroaded, but the reason was unclear. Why? What was the reason? A woman makes a vague accusation that normally would be dropped, but the DA makes a big deal of it and presses the situation to push for a plea bargain. All he wants is a guilty plea. Why? We said okay to the 3rd choice. 10 days. Only on weekends. Then it would be over. I agreed with the lawyer, but it was weird what was going on. All I could think about was if I'd pressed charges against every man that had ever made sexual advances, I hoped someday the mystery would be out and we would somehow get closure, or at least I would. Phil had betrayed my trust, and I hated him for that. I wanted this to end. I wanted to look towards the future and start over. We had talked about divorce, and for now, I wanted to wait and see what happened after the holidays. In the past 4 months, my life had been turned upside down. Christmas had come and gone. My birthday was over, but at least the kids had fun as usual. We went to my mom's, but my heart was aching inside. I was holding in a lot of pain. My heart was broken. I still did a lot of crying in the bathtub. Phil was constantly saying he was sorry and asking what he could do to make things better. I didn't answer him. All I could think about was sorry wasn't enough. I wanted blood. Anger was building inside of me. Sometimes I thought he should just leave or cut off his right arm. I actually didn't know which sounded better. All I knew is I was being tormented. Just give me some time, please. Just give me some time to think. I was hurting inside and my brain was still having a hard time processing all of this. Okay, so this is kind of hard to say. I realize that it was like I could see it in my head. He had done the indecent exposure, masturbating in the Kmart parking lot, and that was disgusting and just sickening that he would do that. And I had tried my best to think that he wanted the thrill of having someone see him. It was the voyeuristic fantasy that he somehow felt was okay to do, when he should have realized, no, you don't do that. It's illegal and you're stupid as hell. So I had that to deal with. And then on top of it, he's having some kind of fleeing kind of thing in his head, and he goes over to our neighbors that he's been flirting with, and he actually makes an advance towards her, and she then says no, and he says he left, and she says in some way that she's going to file charges because for whatever reason she took that as sexual misconduct in some way. And whether she did it because her husband found out, whether she did it because she wanted to get him, I don't know. I'll never know. And still to this day, I have nothing. He told one story, she told another, and what ended up being was a slap on the wrist, I think. He got 10 days in jail, did them on the weekend, got to work through the week, and they ended up making it trespassing. If it was a real sexual misconduct, assault, whatever you want to call it, if he really, even if he basically tried to rape her and she was scared for her life, or if he made sexual advances and didn't get off of her the first time she said no, but the second time he pushed away from her and left, and it didn't go no farther than him just touching her inappropriately, then I still would have thought that it would have got more than trespassing, more than him able to do it on the weekends. I mean, if I was going to file charges against somebody that had made an advance towards me, and I had had once upon a time a boss that took liberties where he shouldn't have and kind of pushed up against me, and I had said no and pushed him away, which is kind of hard to believe for me because I'd been already raped. But in this instance, I thought of my old boss. I was young, I was pretty, unlike this woman who was literally, I mean, and I'm not saying this because of some brush off. I'm not saying this because I'm jealous or in denial. I'm not. She literally was not the best person. She was, to use a term, I guess, she was kind of like a skanky person. She did drugs. She was super thin and dried up looking. I mean, of all the women in the world, he picked her. Yeah, I was stunned because usually if your husband makes a pass at somebody or does something even revolting like sexual misconduct with another woman, period, you would think it would be somebody prettier, somebody above him and above me. But no, this was somebody that was right around the corner from us that we had played cards with and decided, both of them, not only her but her husband, was not going to come back to our house. And I remember vividly how many cigarettes they smoked, how much they drank, how much they screamed at their kids. And I'm not saying I was the best parent because I wasn't, by no means. But I was working and I was trying to better myself. We were trying to do what we could to live an ordinary life. And I'm not saying they weren't. I know he worked, but she didn't. And I know that, or at least none that I thought of, that she worked. I don't know if she had a little side job or not. But I do know that she was home a lot. And I do know, for whatever reason, Phil did something. But to tell you honestly what he did, I don't know. I just heard his side of the story. I never heard hers. And the lawyer said, I guess you would say they reported it. She reported it. But it was just his word against hers. There was nothing. There was no marks. There was no evidence. It was just a complaint. So supposedly that's why it was dropped to trespassing. But to be honest, I was struggling. Like falling apart and struggling. Because it was still a complaint that would haunt us. It was something that was just going to be like, I don't know, flip our world upside down kind of thing. I was hurting. And I didn't know what in the world was going to happen next. God only knows how I felt then and how I feel now. Well, to be honest, I know how I feel now. The book was written in 92, 90, I want to say 92, 93. It was literally, I was writing the book as this happened. I kind of, to give you a backstory, I had started writing the book as a memoir, and when all this happened, it was like, I guess, a godsend for me to sit down every night and put all my thoughts down. And so this book was kind of a savior to me at that time. But yeah, I know how I feel now. Now I'm much older. This happened decades ago. And now, after two other books, basically, I now have more insight on the things that happen. I don't know why my life has been just completely a mess, other than to say I take full responsibility. Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with Phil going over there and doing whatever he did. But I take full responsibility in the fact that I struggled for a long time. I started off as a young child wanting so desperately to have a good family, a good life, a husband that cared about me, a house with a picket fence. I wanted to find happiness and love, and I was desperate. So I went through my first husband, who ended up being an alcoholic and despondent. I went through my second husband, who, after I married, turned into this psychotic, alcoholic, drug addicted wife beater. I lived through my third husband, who on the outside represented himself as an all-American, red-blooded soldier who seemingly would be a great husband and a great father. But then I marry him and I find out not only is he watching porn and jacking off to nudie magazines, but he went to the red light district and he's jacking off on my butt and legs while I sleep. He's doing things that are disgusting. And I'm totally disgusted, totally turned off. And what does he say? We should go out separately. And I just, yeah, I'll take responsibility. I was a married woman who was going out separately at the urging of my husband because our marriage was falling apart. And what? I'm supposed to not find a good looking guy and again try to like envision a life where I'm loved and cared for by somebody? No. Yeah, I look back and think I'm so stupid. There is no perfect life. I'll admit I did all of that. And then I end up with Phil. And I should have ran as fast as I could the other way. I look back now and I think, number one, I can't change it. All of this happened. It happened just like I wrote it. Everything happened. Every torment and painful thing that I went through happened. And this is only book one. We still got two other books to go through. But literally, yeah, I, all of it is me. It's one mistake after another. I just kept digging a bigger hole. Kept jumping into the fire. However you want to put it. There's like so many ways to put it. That was me. Every bit. Just my fault. And at my age now, I don't even care anymore. I don't care if I look back at my life because I can't change it. It is what it is. I made every wrong decision, and I'll admit that. I was just trying, and I'll say it until I can't say it anymore. I was just trying desperately to find happiness. And now at my age, I completely understand. I literally was falling apart. And I didn't have my head on straight. And I did make a lot of bad choices. I did do a lot to I just every bad choice was mine. I'll take responsibility for everything. You have to. You kind of have to. When you write your book and your book just lays it out, almost in black and white. Of course, you just have to face it. What in the world am I doing? And not only did I do all these things that led me through all these different paths, all these mistakes. Yeah, not only did I do them, but I have to face the fact that I can't change them. And I also drug my kids through them. Every child I had, here it was. I had 4 children, and the youngest being 2. And I had never had a stable life for them or for me. You kind of, I heard a remark, I don't know, a saying, I guess, and I'm sure you've heard it too. If you were in one relationship or marriage and things went wrong and you got a divorce, it could be on them. Or you could look at it as it's not on them or it's not on you. It's just bad things happen. But you're supposed to learn from it. You're supposed to, if something bad happens, you're supposed to learn from it and make better choices. And I didn't. I had one bad marriage after another bad marriage, after another bad marriage. And now I was in my 4th marriage, and here it was again. And when you realize maybe all the blame is on you. Not maybe, but for sure. Every mistake was yours. And you did it, and there's no taking it back. But when you realize that, it's painful. It's even more painful than other people hurting you. Because you realize you can't take it back. And you caused so much pain. Not only to yourself, but to everyone around you. The thing I do realize though now is all of that is true, but the biggest truth is you can't take it back. And over time, because I'm really, after decades of pain, I'm tired. I don't want to fight no more. And I'm really tired of carrying the pain. And I've carried it for a long time. And I'll probably carry it to my grave. It's just a no-win situation for me. Not that people should have a winning situation. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say I've accepted that this is my life. And we're only in book 1. But I've accepted it over the years. And I can honestly say I regret every single thing. I caused myself just as much pain as anyone else did. I just didn't know how to stop. I just didn't. And I know at this moment in 60 some odd years, I can look back and think it is what it is. And there's no pause that I can say or enlightenment that I can say is a good answer for any of this. Other than to say, I'm trying to help someone that's struggling just as me. And maybe by listening to my podcast, maybe by reading my book, they can either see through what I did, learn from my mistakes, hear my pain and somehow apply it to what they're going through. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm just trying to share what happened to me and say there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, there's still a lot that goes on in my life, and we'll get to that. But I still, at my age now, think the biggest thing I've learned is to just accept it. Your life is what it is. You did what you did. You have regrets. There's nothing you can change about it. They are, when you do things that you shouldn't do, or you live through certain things, there's a lot of regrets. But it is what it is. And you can't change it. You can't take it back. You can't redo it. There's no do-over. There's none. But you can forgive yourself. You can survive whatever life throws at you. You can pick yourself up. You can dust yourself off. And you can start a new chapter. Just like in a book. You can literally make it through whatever life throws at you. Even if those mistakes are your own, you'll get through them. We're going to get through a lot more. Because I've lived like enough chapters to honestly say there is peace at the end. You just learn to adapt. You learn to forgive yourself. But I want you to know you can survive. So I'm going to continue with my story. And I'm going to continue with my podcast. And I'm going to share my life with you. And I hope you're listening. And I hope you're, I won't say enjoying my book or my life. I don't really have that type of uplifting book. I have a very I guess you would say a very tormented life. But I feel like it's worthy of sharing. It's worthy of listening to. It's worthy of reading. So that it may help somebody out there that's struggling to get through whatever they're struggling with and just wants to know that they're not alone. There's other people that struggle just as much. I didn't have very many people I could talk to back then. I don't necessarily have very many people I can talk to now. But I feel like from the comments I've gotten so far, I feel like there are people out there that they're trying to understand me. They're trying their best to say it's good that I did this. It's good that I can try to help someone that's struggling just as I was. So that's all I want to do. I just want to help someone by sharing my life. Okay, I've said this a million times. I'll probably say it a million more. But my podcasts are getting a little long, and I don't mean for them to do that. So I'm going to stop here, and then please keep listening. Thank you.